Hey, Kellan, John Moeller here. I am reviewing the data from our session on Friday. Just want to start off by saying had a great time working with you and your M3. Hope you enjoyed it as well and hope you feel like it was a productive day. I think the data is going to show that, in my mind, it was definitely a pretty solid day for advancement. Um, what I have here, the breakdown that I have here is the fastest laps that we recorded. Bad news is, and I'll share that with you here, these are our sessions from the day. The one at 137 and from 145, those were a couple of laps that I did in my car, and I'll remove those for future use when we're reviewing your data later on. But unfortunately, that last session of the day that we ran, it looks like that 129. There must have been a glitch because it didn't look like it recorded. Obviously, pretty disappointed in that because we both saw that on the clock. So when we saw that error occur on the data logger, that must have been what happened. So really disappointed that we weren't able to get that number, but we clearly both of us saw it. So I feel validated in that. This 129 969, that's the lap that I ran. I'll do a comparison between that lap and your fast lap, recorded lap of 130.860, just to give an idea of some of the things that we're doing differently. I'll address that in a little bit. But for right now, I wanted to do a comparison between your opening best lap, the 145 versus the 130. Again, pretty darn impressed with this because we literally managed to shave off 15 seconds from that opening session down to one of the better sessions that we had towards the end of the day. So massive improvement, obviously. 225s, those were those initial demo laps that we did where I was driving. So just so we're clear on where we are. So we'll go back to the data here. So in the red, we have our fast lap. It's kind of obvious to see the differences here. Blue line is that initial lap, the fastest lap of that initial session. So we'll go ahead and back off here. And let me take a look at the channels here. I'm a little confused. There we go. All right, cool. So unfortunately, I think I had mentioned the connection that I have, the OBD2 connection that I have. It looks like there wasn't a lot of compatibility with your car. There wasn't any compatibility, which I was a little concerned about. Usually I can pick up throttle position, brake pressure, and a few other in steering angle sensor, which proved really valuable when we're doing data analysis. But instead, what I grabbed the lateral acceleration. So this is cornering G's as well as longitudinal acceleration. So here we're getting both braking as well as acceleration, so we can get kind of an understanding of what's happening. It's a little less precise measurement for what's going on in the car and how we're manipulating those controls, but it's still very useful. So that said, this final component here is a running count of your time improvement. If you take a look, it's really interesting to see how smooth this line is. Like literally, it was just you were gaining time all across the lap in those later laps. So really cool to see that, and really neat to just kind of see the data from that. We'll start off with, we've got a track map on the left that shows us your positioning, where you were, and just kind of gives us a rough idea of what was happening at what point on the lap. So coming in here, we've got our speeds. We can take a look. Obviously, on that initial lap, on the initial session, we didn't quite have confidence, or you didn't quite have confidence in carrying speed through here and finding that cornering, the amount of grip that car had. We hadn't developed that confidence in the car, and that translated to a pretty massive difference in speeds right here. I'm seeing a 20-mile-an-hour difference, and that's absolutely phenomenal. And we're seeing it pretty much across the board there. Even as the speed drops, you're maintaining. I'm seeing 66, 86, and I'm definitely seeing some really good speed there. On the lateral G's, we're seeing some really good we're seeing really good cornering grip as well. That's a byproduct of that speed. So you're really starting to push the grip on those tires and starting to feel that. I'm curious. We'll do a comparison between mine. I think I might be seeing a little bit more grip out of those tires. One thing I want to call out that's good to see as well. This is a pretty significant improvement here. Is this drop in speed? That's you being more confident on the speed. The steeper the angle, more confident on the brakes rather. So the steeper this angle, the more confidence that I'm seeing on the brakes. So you're getting on those brakes hard. You're getting rid of that speed. And then even here, what's happening is you're finding that confidence to start going into the gas earlier. And that's that separation between that blue line and that red line. So we're seeing more throttle going in earlier. And then I'll carry on. This is coming through turn 10 to be clear. So this is that sharp left-hander that drops downhill. And again, here what we're seeing, this is the brake pressure. This is that the longitudinal acceleration. So you're really cranking on those brakes. You can see versus kind of softly pushing those brakes down. Here we've got really hard brake point, and then going back to acceleration. And you can see this line ramping up like this. That's a very aggressive application of the throttle, which is great to see. It's finding confidence. It's really starting to push on those pedals. Again, being focused on being smooth, but also just being willing to commit and have that comfort on the throttle. So we come around there, our minimum speed here, I'll focus on this a little bit later, but our minimum speeds here are very similar, right? You're at 34 and 35. And if you take a look, what's happening here is you're not quite here. You are finding a heck of a lot more grip out of the car. And here, because those speeds are relatively slow, we're not actually getting as much grip as I believe is available in that tire. So right here, you hit 1G. That's a lot of grip, but it's only for kind of a momentary application. So I'm going to call back to this when we do the comparison between your lap and my lap. There is definitely more speed to be had. Your minimum speed going through that corner can be faster. So we can work on that the next time that we're out here. But here, what I'm seeing is this is definitely more confidence on the throttle. You're starting to build that speed. Again, look at this gap. You've got 13 miles an hour on yourself coming through that sweeping left-hander where we're getting close to the left side of the track, really pushing down that throttle, really getting some good speed into there. You top out, again, 20-mile-an-hour difference right there. That's massive when it comes to lap times, and that's why we saw this massive gain. So you're at 98 miles an hour as we enter turn 7 or turn 8, the dam turn, which is that sweeping right-hander, coming through there pretty nicely. And then if you notice, we're getting a little bit of break there, which doesn't surprise me. I suspect that, there's a 0.66. So because we're coming in there pretty hot, you're hitting a little bit of brake pressure there in order to set that car up to get that turn. And then coming through here, what happens is you delay a little bit longer on so that the minimum speed going through that corner happens a little bit later. So all this time under the curve is you gaining time on your other lap. Minimum speed is 63, so you're still a little bit faster here. And then you start accelerating as we come through that corner and start heading towards that apex. Again, really great to see that there, getting confidence in that throttle and starting to push that car a little bit harder. One of the things, again, here, let's take a quick look. Holy crap. All right. So here's where you're really finding the limits of the car. And I think both you and I felt that through here. So we're seeing 1.18 Gs out here. And granted, this isn't really smooth. I am willing to bet, it would be interesting to see, but if you take a look at where that is on the track here, I'm willing to bet that that's where that car starts to compress due to that elevation change, where the track starts going a little bit uphill there. What happens is that the weight of the car is actually providing you some additional grip as the hill comes up, giving you more cornering grip. So really cool to see you utilizing that there. We see another touch in the 1.1 G range there. Really cool. That's you're pushing that car and really finding the limits of that the cornering. Again, as we accelerate into turn 7, that left-hander, we're seeing a massive gap in speeds, right? That's what are we looking at? 25 miles an hour there. Definitely gaining a lot of confidence in that throttle and starting to push that car. Again, these sharp drops in speed, that's awesome. What that means is you're getting on those brakes and using them and really getting that car slowed down. It's interesting here. I'm going to address this again when you and I, when I compare your lap versus mine. One of the things that I'm seeing out of you is you're braking a little bit too much. So even here in your slower lap, you're able to carry a slightly faster mid-corner speed through here. So it's going to be the balance of finding that. Again, like as far as G's go, relatively low here, but I'll be curious to see. So it looks like maxing out at 0.9, which isn't bad. That's still pretty high, but I think you may be able to find a little bit more grip there and come through there with a little bit more speed. We'll work on that hopefully in the next session and go from there. Overall, again, really solid performance here. Then one of the things that we're seeing, right, is we're seeing a nice acceleration curve coming up here with the speed. I'd love to take a look at, I wish we had throttle position data on here to see if you're staying on that throttle as we accelerate through here, because that's one thing coming through this fast sweeping left-hander that's turn 6. If you remember, that's the one where we would exit about 2/3 of the way across the track and really start accelerating towards that white line here. Carrying throttle through that apex and all the way out is going to make a significant difference. I think we may see a difference between your lap and mine through there. So it'll be fun to see. And then again, just massive separation in speeds here, differences, right? I mean, holy crap, that's 29 miles an hour right there. That's awesome. So you're really getting after it, really starting to gain some speed there. And then again, right, your brake pressure here isn't as hard as it is coming into turn 7, but still, this is turn 5 leading into that uphill. This is it's a long drawn out corner that requires a little bit more patience, and that's why we come around that. This is where you're trail braking into that corner and getting down to that apex, coming up that hill. I'm not going to knock this. It's definitely good to see. And one of the things is it's a very smooth line. It's very consistent. That's great to see. It's firm application on those brakes and carrying them in, not being jerky on those brakes where there would be like an off on that speed. It looks really good. And you can see that represented here as well in the longitudinal G's. It just freaking drops, boom. And then there's a little bit in here. I'm not going to knock that. It looks really good. Then we go back, we see that little bit of gas application in here that's creating a separation between these two laps. Come down here, going into turn 4, right? Middle of turn 4, you're finding a little bit more speed in here. You're coming through here with more mid-corner speed, which I'm really happy to see. And then from here, the curves are similar as we come over the crest and head down that hill. You're starting to accelerate here. And because you're foot on the floor in both of these scenarios, the car is accelerating at about the same rate. Here, you're getting the confidence to continue down there, continue on that gas and gain more speed and really push on that car. Awesome to see. And even here, right, you can see how when we were waiting for the car to settle after that bump before you started braking, that's the difference between starting to give up and start braking here versus if we look at the distance, right? It's the scale here is a little bit exaggerated, well, not exaggerated, but this is a longer scale, but I'm willing to bet that that's about maybe 200 to 250. That's probably 100 meters or more between this brake period pressure here and the brake application here. Is that maybe less than 100 meters, but it's still significant. It's no joke, right? You're clearly coming off the throttle here, and between here and here, I would say that's 200 meters. All that gains massive time. It makes a major difference on your lap times. So really good to see that confidence and see that coming in. As we slow coming in, again, we're going, again, look at this drop right here. Boom, this is the longitudinal G's. This gives you an idea of how hard you're braking. That's probably your maximum braking point. We're seeing braking G's of -1 G over a G braking. That's really good, really solid brake pressure. You're just ramping it up and getting it in there. And then obviously you match speeds here, and this is kind of like your slowest speed coming through that corner, and then that's 62 miles an hour. Maybe you go a little bit slower here, but it's way faster than your previous lap where you're coming through here. And I guarantee you're generating some pretty solid G's right here. Yeah, 1.21 G's of acceleration coming through here. Lateral, those are lateral G's. So that's cornering forces that you're generating on that car. That's coming through again, it's a little bit of an uphill, if you recall, coming through this left-hander. You get some really nice grip generated here because you're at the bottom of the hill here, and the car is just pushing into the pavement as you come around this left-hander and then head back into the right-hander. Really solid to see that. And so we should see you transition back, and we're going to watch you pulling over a G going to the right side when you go through that right hand corner. And again, seeing massive separation in your speeds here. 12 miles an hour it's no joke. That's a massive separation in speed. And again, you're continuing on and carrying throttle all the way through, building more and more. So you're up to 20. Did I just do the math wrong there? No. All right. So you got 12, but then you pop up, and there you've got what is that? 17 miles an hour gap there. Again, massive difference. And then like here as well, right? You're basically 28 miles an hour. That's all good stuff. Great to see that. So now what I'd like to do is we're going to go ahead and do a quick comparison between that baseline lap that I set with a 129.69 969. So we'll pop that up, and then to make our lives, that looks good. All right, cool. I just wasn't sure if I should use a different color in here. But so we've got my lap is in blue, your lap is in red. So taking a look at it, right? Ironically, you're carrying a little bit more speed than I am coming in on that blue lap. So you've got 3 miles an hour on me in a certain section there, and then we come down to about the same speed. And then here, I want to call this out because I kind of mentioned this going over the previous laps. Take a look at the difference between my blue line and your red line. I want to focus on this. I was kind of commenting this out or mentioning this previously when we were going through here. You're still bleeding a little bit too much speed coming through here. And if you watch again, right, you can actually see this is the separation in our lap times and where I gain speed on you. And bear in mind, I was trying to set this as a baseline, so I wasn't really trying I wasn't going for the fastest lap here. But I do want to call out, if you look, like the big drops that happen are mid corner. So boom, I drop down in turn 10, I gain time on you, right? Coming through here, you're carrying more speed, a little bit more speed mid corner, not mid corner, but you're accelerating a little bit more and carrying a little bit more speed into turn 8, which is known as the dam turn. So that's that sweeping right hander. And then you give up a little bit more corner speed or mid corner speed here, and you see a little bit of a drop. It's not significant, but I just want to call it out. And then we're both pretty evenly matched coming through here. And then our braking is the same. And then again, boom, we see a big drop here. This is happening in turn 7. So this is that left-hander. Let's take a quick look. I'm kind of curious to see. So Yep. All right. So I'm carrying. I get a little bit more cornering. I am pushing those tires a little bit harder on the cornering aspect. I'm generating a few more G's initially on that corner. And that's because I haven't given up as much speed here. So what this is this boils down to me having enough experience to feel comfortable really laying into those tires quickly. And this is something that you'll gain with more time on track. Effectively, it's finding the maximum grip of the tires faster. And that just comes from more experience, feeling that how much to grip those tires get. You are finding a ton of grip when we go through turn 8, when the initial component here going through 9 and 8, you're really pushing that car hard, and we're seeing some high lateral G's out of your cornering. So like in here, I'm just getting a little bit more than you, whereas you're really starting to carry it. And meanwhile, here I feel like there's a little bit more of a separation where I'm chasing a little bit more grip and pushing the car a bit harder. And again, that's allowing me to carry a little bit more cornering speed mid corner. And then you see our acceleration curves are relatively similar. And although I want to call out right here, this is the difference. This is a subtle difference between you carrying you're backing off the throttle right here in the entry to turn 6, whereas I'm staying on it and letting that car run. And if you recall, when we had the conversation or when we were talking in the car and I was running the lap, I recall distinctly saying at turn 6 that I was a little concerned that I was running a little bit too fast. And that's one of the reasons why you see my acceleration curve drop off here. If I was pushing for a faster lap, you would see this separation continue, and we would see another large gap down here because I was carrying more speed over that section. Here, I brake just a little bit later than you, if you notice here, and I roll it in a little bit softer again because wasn't pushing as hard. But I do like seeing how you peak out here and then it just immediately drops. So that means you're not coasting. It's not like a flat line where you're carrying the same speed. So nice work here. You see both of us have similar curves. I brake a little bit longer and bleed off a little bit more speed. But right here is that uphill section, and you called it out, where I give that throttle a nice blip, right, and really punch it. And then here is an interesting trade-off. So I get another gap down here because of that throttle application here, but then I give some up because I came in and ran, I braked a little bit more than you do and gave up a little bit more speed coming around 4, but then we swap places and the area under the curve here might be similar. I gave up a little bit more time to you, but it's just worth calling out, worth mentioning that, this nice little, there's a ton of area under the curve right here. And so I gained a lot of time. I gained a pretty nice margin here by popping in that blip of the throttle and getting a little bit more speed over the hill. So something that we can definitely work on. And then here, you can notice I think I was kind of realizing how fast of a lap I was running and starting to back things off a little bit. So you can see I start falling out of the throttle here. Again, I'm the blue line, whereas you carried it in with some really nice confidence and really blew through here. What's interesting here is you actually manage. I gave up a little bit more speed at the entry than you did. So this is a really good section for you. You're doing really well through that 3-2-1 complex. All of this it's pretty similar to what I was running. When we get out there again, I'll probably work on grabbing another baseline for you where I'll run maybe a 128 or 127 in your car to kind of start establishing new baselines for us to work on. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was beneficial to you. If you have any questions about it, please let me know. The one thing that I do want to call out, right, is obviously seeing the progression through the day is pretty massive. So what I like to do is take a quick look at what we were seeing for laps. So this is our 9:17 a.m. session. If you take a look here, right, we're a little bit all over the place from a 159, 153, 147, 145, 147. That was, I mean, that's a pretty normal first start where you're just starting to find your way around the track. But here I'd like to call out, like, this was at the 11 o'clock session. I mean, you go out with a 134, 132, 133, 136, right? I think this was where we did our reset. So I mean, it's really interesting to watch, and I appreciate it. It gives me a good understanding of your style. We start chipping away, right? It's a 134, a 132, and then a 131. And then I think at the 131, it was like, okay, I've got a little bit of overload. I'm going to reset. And then we ran a 136, a 135, a 134, 134, consistent, 133. And then you had the confidence to push here. Really cool seeing that. What will happen as we progress is we're going to start seeing these times tighten up. So you're going to be doing like a 132, 131, 132, 132, 131, 130. We're going to look for becoming more consistent as well as faster. So having that confidence, having that consistency is going to be a really big deal, and really looking forward to working towards that with you. Just wanted to throw one more out there for comparison. This was our 12:17 time. So 139, 135, 133, 132. Again, we got hosed on this. I'm not sure why. I think it stopped recording at this point, because I'm fairly confident this is where we ran that the 129 for you. So disappointing that we couldn't see the full run, as I definitely would have liked to have seen that. So again, thanks again for the day. Hope it was good time for you. Hope you enjoyed it. And let me know the next time you want to get out there. Happy to help you and start continue to chip away at that lap time.